Hi, everyone. It's me, Chris Harder, and welcome back to Showboys, the podcast bringing you a glittery, gritty, full frontal glimpse into the world of Burlesque. What is Burlesque? We're going to find out. One thing I do love about burlesque performers is that we are constantly reinventing ourselves, not only with costumes or appearances, but also in the variety of shows, the business ventures, the merchandise, the pancake mixes. I don't know if there is a burlesque performer with a pancake mix, but there will be. You heard it here on the pod. Anywho, my guest today is one such kind of hustler. He's not only a showboy, but also a flyboy. Not only a show performer, but also a show producer. He's a luscious Luigi and a brazen Boy Scout, an assler of the ages, a golden-throated MC, and the proprietor of the prettiest, deepest, most cavernous heart. Please welcome to the Showboys stage, Tito Bonito.
What? That was like the best intro I've ever gotten in my life.
Well, thank you. I mean, you're deserving of every single laud. So yes, it's my pleasure. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. How are you?
I'm good. Well, I'm fine. I have so many. That's a whole other podcast, but for the purposes of today's interview, I'm great. But
When you're on mine, then you can talk about that.
then I'll talk about today. But today I want to talk about you, Tito Bonito. And obviously, you are an incredible burlesque performer among many other talents. And something I like to start off the podcast with is just to ask my interviewee, what does burlesque mean to you? And for our listeners at home who have not maybe seen you perform on stage, how would you describe your aesthetic and what can people expect from a Tito Bonito performance?
Ooh, that's such a weighted question. I love that. Burlesque to me is basically just like a good marketing tool to explain to people male burlesque.
Mm-hmm.
It's just burlesque. But you can find it easier if you say burlesque. And what you can kind of audiences can expect from me, I am a good time. I love comedy. I'm a comedian at heart. Most of my acts are going to be laced with political commentary, but in a comedic way so that it's not going to feel like, being forced down your throat. But I'm basically just a good time. And I'm such a good time that most of the time people don't realize that I'm really just honestly having such a good time. They think it's like a shtick and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm just me. So,
Yeah, you're a good time who goes down easy.
ow. Not for free, though.
No, never. Never give it away for free. Your tagline is the Cuban Missile Crisis. Are you still using that as the tagline?
Booyaka, booyaka, booyaka. Yeah, that's still the Instagram. People still, when I say I'm the Cuban Missile Crisis on Instagram, people think that I'm just saying a bit. And I'm like, no, please follow me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. My hope is that everyone continues to follow all of us on this pod. I just want to ask though, is everything okay with the missile and are you experiencing crisis in any way today? Because if you are,
Y-
I'm not the person to assist you with that, but I just want to know for the pod.
Why not? No, actually, I always say that my name is the Cuban Missile Crisis because my missile is so small that it's a crisis. But I am Cuban, so I can say all of that.
And you know what? We're not here to judge missiles of any shape or size. They're all
That
valid.
part, they're all valid on the Showboys pod.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it here. I have so many things I want to talk to you about. And also, it's just so great to see you. I feel like I'm getting to catch up with a lot of performers that I first met years ago and got to perform with years ago. And then not only just the fact that we live on different coasts, but also COVID and post-pandemic stuff. I just haven't seen you in so long. So it's great to see you. For our listeners at home, Tito Bonito is looking dashing in a T.L.C. crazy sexy cool memorabilia t-shirt.
Hey, they have a documentary coming out on Lifetime June 3rd.
Okay, if Lifetime wants to sponsor the Showboys pod, please have a representative reach out.
Oh my god, please. They pinned my comment on that post. They were trying to be like, TLC, pick a song. And I was like, why are you trying to make me pick between children? And then they pinned my comment. So, Lifetime, please support.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Well, so you work. I've been doing some deep diving, by which I mean stalking your Instagram account, and you work all over Los Angeles, literally in so many different clubs and venues. Can you tell me what has been some of like the biggest differences for you in those crowd aesthetics? Because you work a lot you host Bathtub Gin in Los Angeles, right?
Mhm.
And then you also have been working a lot in different gay nightclubs. How would you describe those environments to people who haven't been to LA? And
I like bringing burlesque to as many different like kinds of spaces as possible. I also started performing without really like proper training, so I've been learning through all of it. So I'm very adaptable to any environment. So I like bringing burlesque or performing in as many different spaces as possible because you're gonna get so many different audiences. And in like LA, it's like Miami where it's very spread out and it's massive.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times I feel like productions can get trapped in that like, oh, here's a space where burlesque shows work. Let's just stay there and make a bunch of shows. So I am grateful that it's worked out. But like Bathtub Gin is very like speakeasy. Like there's not going to be tips thrown out. They're going to be placed in an envelope and collected at the end. And then in Pomona, which is like an hour and a half away, it's going to be an 18 and over gay nightclub with like predominantly straight men going after straight girls. But it's like a great time because it's, a younger audience. They can come right for Drag Race and then stay for a burlesque show. So they really get to see something where it's, they may not normally get to see. Palm Springs is like a bachelorette party and a nightclub. And Santa Ana is a monthly show I do with Muse Burlesque. And that one is just like the perfect audience. It's very this aesthetic. If you can't see right now, it's very gorgeous burlesque show. Amazing audiences that love to just like hoot and holler and they do everything like the perfect way you want it to be. And that's like where I'm like, if you really want to go see a burlesque show, that's like the perfect, like, you're never going to get a weird audience. So it's just kind of different all over. And those places are literally all over Los Angeles.
That's so interesting to me because I feel like I've only been in LA once for a week, like years ago, and I tried taking public transportation, and it was like 3 subway stops and then like a mile and a half walk.
Listen, I moved here from Chicago and I moved here without a car. I've lived here over 10 years without a car, and I really do advocate for the transportation. I think it's actually pretty dope. I think because grew up in Miami where it was non-existent versus
Mhm.
Chicago where it was like very 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 easy. This is like a kind of middle where yeah, it's a little difficult, but it's not horrible. It's just not like if I'm going to go out to some of these places, I could take one bus from like downtown, but it's
Mhm.
might take 2 hours.
We gotta get a burlesque taxi service going, something like that.
Geez, Loueez had G's cab for a while, but that's specific to.
Or you know what I would do? I would work like if a taxi driver had one of the, like the big vans or like one of the like big accessible like cars, I would just be like in a G-string and then like I imagine you would be in with like your assholes and that would just be like the ride entertainment.
Oh, I would definitely
Yeah.
be driving.
Uber and Lyft, are you listening? Because you can also be sponsors of the Showboys pod.
How would you even do that? Like Vodvuber,
Vodvuber!
Vodvuber, Vodlift, Vodlift,
Vodlift, Bodlift, Body
or
Lift,
Burluber.
Berluber.
It would be. There's a lot of strip club buses that drive around LA, and they have like silhouettes like of a group of women, and it's like a huge. And we always question if they're just like piled in the back, like ready to go.
Yeah, yeah, or if they're being held hostage by some, like,
Listen, that's probably
giant
the truth, and
fake
we don't want to talk about
dancer.
that.
No, 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 no. Only positive only positivity on the Showboys pod. Well, tell me about this. So, with Club Pomona, did I say that? Or
Hmm.
Club okay,
Club 340. It's 340.
okay. Tell me about is this a new venture or a new show that I just saw happening, or have you been working there for a while?
I worked there. We've now in July it'll be a year. I got called into basically like as a producer. I love y'all. You are the most beautiful flowers in the burlesque community because you do 14,000 different jobs and it's just
Mhm.
not sane to do that. And I maxed out. I was like, if I'm going to host and perform because that's what I really want to do and produce, I can't also market the show, sell tickets, do all the things, set up the like it was just where I kind of was like, I can either book the show or I can just focus on being an artist. And then when shows started coming up to me and being like, "Hey, we want you to bring a show," because they'd see me at a different show and like just assume
Mhm.
that it's like a collective package. But lucky for us, it's all individual and we can just all, you know, put
Yeah.
shows together. So 340 was the first show that like it does everything for us. It makes I mean, I used to do graphic designs, I used to do the video editing, the posters, like everything. So because I knew I had a vision and I knew I wanted it to look a certain way, so I just didn't, and I didn't have the resources to like max out and have other people do it. So as you know, you have to take on all those jobs yourself. So with 340, they made the flyers, they make video reels, they take pictures and post them on the website the night after. They set up the chairs, they collect they change out big bills for tips. They do everything. They literally even print out the set list. All I have to do is bring in performers, give them a decent rate, and make sure everything flows well. So that I kind of went into it being like, let's see how it goes because it sounds too good to be true. But after a year, it's one of those things where if you scratch their back, they scratch your back, and it's been pretty cute ever since.
That's amazing. And I'm just curious because I feel like I've done some shows in New York that are at gay clubs, like specifically like, mainstream. I'm using finger quotation marks, gay clubs. How does the boylesque and the burlesque mix there? Because sometimes I feel like it either goes over phenomenally or you're just like performing it for a room full of like jaded ex-chorus boys. But what's been your experience? And I mean, it sounds like it's going well there, but yeah, tell me more.
I mean, it always sounds like it's going well if you post positive things on the internet all the time. But no, honestly, it's just like every space is different. I think it's also depending on the show. As a host, it's easier for me to almost make the audience want me to perform versus if it's a drag show and I'm just thrown out there. Because if it's that, 1,000 times out of 10, it's the first minute everyone's like, what the fuck is happening? And then the second, like 30 seconds, they're like, okay, he's taking some clothes off. Okay, this is kind of cute. And then finally, by the time there's actually like butt tassels or butt, they're like in it. But if I'm hosting, usually the production wants me to like do the act at the end. So that kind of that anticipation by the time the end of the show is happening, they're on my side no matter what. And like 340 isn't really like an audience where it's going to be like it's pretty diverse. It's not going to be just gay men in the audience. It's going to be mostly women, but like definitely a younger crowd. So, and it's still building at this point.
Sure.
The last show we did was pretty epic, and that was still a very like well-rounded audience.
That's great. Yeah, you said the straight guys are showing up to chase the straight girls who are there to watch the gay boys.
And they're also probably just trying to be there and dance, but it's very like a cruisy club, and it's very big. It's like Queer as Folk back in the day Babylon.
Oh, okay.
If you
Okay.
watch that.
I didn't, but I my
I
head
had a
wasn't
feeling that you
allowed.
didn't the way that you answered that, but I was hoping. It's
I
basically
was
like a
hoping.
like a two-story nightclub with like massive rooms and like big space. So basically even when the show is happening, people can like sit and watch the show or they can watch from the second balcony and then there's huge massive TV screens all over. So you could be in the back and still watch the show.
That sounds incredible. To be clear, I wanted to watch Queer as Folk, but my family pretty much made that impossible as a, young prepubescent homosexual in the Midwest. But, again, a story for another pod. Are you also so and again, this is just what I discerned from looking at the Instagram, but is in the show lineup, it's burlesque, it's boylesque, and then are there also like strippers, like more like male stripper dancers, or what's the like cast makeup?
So the reason why the posters always kind of look like half and half is because like it's basically two events in one night. So like the second half is like a traditional like go-go boys are featured. They usually fly out like a porn performer to be the
Hmm.
featured dancer. So we are like the early part of the night. We're like 9:30 to 11, and then right after that they like clear out where all the seats are, and then it makes it like a huge dance club. So it's half and half, but our show is just run as a burlesque show, like one act after the other till the end.
Okay, cool. I mean, I love all kinds of lineups. I know in New York sometimes we've tried to do like boylesque and then more like straight up male strippers. One time I had to follow a guy who fucked a cantaloupe on stage on a tarp, but sometimes it's good just to keep the timelines different or the time segments different. So,
But also, I actually do. I did start working at a show where it is like a Latin Magic Mike show, and that
yes.
audience was mostly men looking at me perform. Like I'm telling you, I literally have performed this Boy Scout act, and it always goes well. And this was the first time that people were like, "Nah." Because they were like, "You have no muscles. We can't, like, what? You're trying to be funny right now? Like, we're all horny. Like, stop." And then the last I've done that show 3 times. The second time, they were like, "Come with, the big feather fans and bring us like big burlesque." So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna bring you like stupid shit." And then the last time I did it, they were like, "Hey, do you mind hosting?" And when I did that, the act went 10 times better. And I know that
Mhm.
that's always like, when it comes to me as somebody who's like, doesn't put a lot of makeup on and is mass presenting, all my acts, I'm not going to really have like corsets on stage or stockings. Like, not that there's anything wrong with it. But I feel like, like masculine burlesque is very hard to come by. And I still like exploring it, all the different sides of it, but that's the part where I'm kind of, my brain is at right now. So even in that setting, they were still like, absolutely not. But once I took control and I could kind of like gain their trust by just like entertaining them and being funny, then whatever I did worked, which was really interesting.
Yeah, it is, and it constantly fascinates me. I feel like sometimes I have an easier job winning over straight men in the audience than I do gay men, but it definitely helps to host and to let people get to know you as a person first. I don't know. Also, gay men, complicated
I
people.
get it, but I'm also like, if I like, when I first saw, and you were one of the first people that I ever saw doing male burlesque, and but like when I saw the stage door Johnny's first, like it
Yeah.
was like when I imagine that a drag queen sees another drag queen, they're like, "Bitch, I need to do that." Like they're not like, "Bitch, I could do that better," even if they are, which they probably are. It's still one of those things where they're like, "Oh my god, like that's what I want to do," and I think male burlesque is still, as even though it's growing, it's still one of those things that's so confusing to people that like gay
Mhm.
men are like, huh? Because when I see Jake Dupree or someone that does it a little bit more drag queeny, where it's a little bit more feminine, then that is
Mhm.
more accepted than like if you come out as a pizza delivery guy.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and as someone who is a pizza delivery guy, yeah,
That's you.
that's
That's why I'm
that's the one.
referencing you.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's the one act too where, like, it usually goes over well 9 times out of 10, but that one time where it doesn't, I'm usually like, "Okay, well, this audience is."
Well, I'm always like, what did I do wrong? And could I have done something different? Was it just something like, because honestly, at the end of it, you just kind of have to go out there and have fun. But like, oof, sometimes,
I know. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, bottom line, you gotta have fun, and sometimes, you just have to remind yourself that other gay men suck.
hopefully.
Hopefully. Hopefully. On that note, actually, I don't know how to transition exactly out of that. One of the things I think you do incredibly well, and there are many things that you do incredibly well, but you mentioned taking out the ass and also the assholes that come with it. For anyone that's listening that has no idea what assholes are, can you explain that? And also, how does one properly asshole? Because I feel like many try, but I feel like only few succeed, and you are definitely one of those successful people.
It's such a Marx Brother kind of joke to be like, and how does one asshole? Because it sounds like you know what you're
Oh, I
saying.
do know what I'm.
Assholes. I usually just say the T is silent. It's just tassels for your ass,
Yeah.
for your butt. You wanna. I don't have a top. I don't have breasts, so my lovely top tassels don't. I don't feel like have the same oomph that a big-breasted lady may have, but I do have a big ass. So I put the emphasis on it by directing all of the attention to my bottom breasts.
The
Uh,
bottom breasts.
not the bottom breasts of burlesque. And basically, I teach assholes, and I'll give this away because I know you know the answer to this, but like, it's just going to make everyone's life easier. In order to do tasseling on your butt
Mhm.
successfully, everyone's body's different. So you got to just put them on and practice. Get a little video recorder, watch yourself try some different things, and keep at it. And just keep, when you think you're going, just go a little longer. Don't just, go
Right.
for a little bit. But the biggest thing is putting the spinners on the
Yes.
tassels. If you do that, that's a cheat. Like if you just have a regular tassel where it goes through, you're going to have to work a little harder. But if
Mhm.
you put a spinner on that, the wind sometimes can take it for you.
Yes, yes. I love that. Or if you have someone that's standing really close to the stage, they can just blow on your ass and then maybe also kind of. Exactly, exactly. Quick breaths, quick breaths.
like a little windmill.
Did you always incorporate that into your performances, or was there like an aha moment where you're like, "Oh, this is
Bunny Galore at the 2015 Southwest Burlesque Showcase in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the Chemo Theater.
wow,
Because I had seen the Brotherhood of Burlesque do tassels on their butt, and I love them, but it wasn't the spark that
sure,
happened. It was when Bunny Galore was doing it, and she did her Turn Down for What act where she's a stewardess. And the video is on YouTube. You can hear me because me and Holly Rebel are sitting next to the camera without realizing. So you can hear me going, because I was losing my ever loving mind. And I went up to her and I was just like, hey, can I do that? And she was like, I didn't invent it. So she was like, yeah, do whatever you want. But also, when I started burlesque, I was like 150 pounds, so I didn't have an ass. And then now I'm, a good 200. So there's a bit of it, and it sits well on my butt. So that's once I started gaining some weight, it definitely made it a part of adding that to the aesthetic.
sure, sure, sure." Well, and look, again, you're a beautiful performer, and I'm not just saying that either,
Oh
but
yeah.
whatever size, whatever size.
Oh yeah, no, I love it, and if I was a little thinner, I probably would still do it. But it was honestly when I saw her do it, I was like, I need the audience to feel that way when I do it. So I hope they feel that way when I do it, which I know they don't because I don't do it as dope and as flawlessly as she does it. But I can definitely get them going and make it look hot.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. As someone who was born witness to it, yes, I would say you get the audience going just fine. Speaking of being an active audience member, I want to talk to you about some of your inspirations as a performer, but I do know that one such inspiration is the unforgettable T.L.C. And in fact, you were even pulled up on stage during a concert. There's live video footage of it. Tito Bonito is shaking his crazy sexy cool t-shirt in front of me right now. Who organized that for you to get pulled up on stage during that concert?
I sold my soul to the devil himself.
Finally.
And you know what? It was worth it. Every single moment of it was absolutely fucking worth it. No, I basically stand for them since like third grade or fourth grade or something. And then I was going to go to their concert for fan mail and they canceled the night before. And then, our girl moved on to better pastures.
Mhm.
So that happened. But then when I moved to LA, their first big concert was New Kids on the Block and Nelly, and they were on tour and everyone, Jezebel Thunder was at the concert, like texting me pictures, and I was in San Francisco touring because I was trying to make this gig work.
Absolutely.
And I was broke, so I was like, I ain't got no money to go see them. And then when everybody was texting me from LA, I was like, oh god, like FOMO was kicking in. And I got back the next day, so I was just like, man, it's just not meant to be. And then when I got back the next day, something in me was like, why don't you, how far away can they be? Like, if they're in Vegas, you can take a bus. Because it's like living in Chicago taught me how to just travel around to like Minneapolis and everything on just a cute little mega bus.
Sure.
So I saw that they're in San Diego the next day, which is so much closer than Vegas. So I was just like, yo, let me get a ticket. And I found one in the third row for $50 because it was by itself. And I was like, oh, I got to go by myself. That's so stupid. And it was a Monday night. Like, it was so, like, nobody was going to go out on Monday. So I buy the ticket because I was like, well, you got to go. And I was like, you just get to see them, which is amazing. And then when I got there, something in me was like, go to the Facebook, like, whatever of the venue and just ask if anyone has a meet and greet ticket that you can buy off of them because they were sold out.
Mhm.
And then like 15 minutes before, 45 minutes before the concert was going to start, but like 15 minutes before meet and greet, I get a bing on my phone as I'm like charging it at Starbucks. And because your boy still didn't have a car, your boy took an Amtrak then.
Ah!
And I get a bing, and then the bing is this guy being like, yo, my friend didn't show up. I'll sell you this ticket. And I was just like, what? So I went there, like, just got in the line, and I thought I was cool. I saw them from the distance because I was like in the back of the line. I was like, I want to be last because I know I'm gonna need like a second.
Uh-huh.
And then because all these people knew this was happening, I didn't know this was happening. And then the minute I saw them, I just lost it. Like, the guy was like, oh, you could take a picture. And I was like, I don't want a picture. Can I get a video? And then he was like, no videos. But then because the people heard that and saw me like lose it, they took videos for me without, even me
Oh.
knowing, asking. And that's how I have all the videos and stuff from it, which was insane. And then I think because once I kind of was like, I got my composure and I just kind of talked to them like and told them about burlesque and stuff. At the end of it, I was like, oh, by the way, if you ever come to a show, they call me the Cuban Missile Crisis. But when you say it, you got to throw out a Jamaican cat call like, blah, 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 which I know they love being loud. So all of them started laughing in the dressing room. And then when I walked out, the security guard came up to me and was like, what seat are you in? And I was just like, oh, I'm at this seat. Like, not even thinking. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to bring you on stage. And I was like, nah, don't tell me that. It's not going to happen. And then, sure enough, when Red Light Special started, the guy tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, they want to bring you on stage. I was like, what the fuck? So immediately after their concert, New Kids started their like 2-hour concert. And I like walked out of the venue. I was like, excuse me, I have to call everyone I've ever met in my entire life.
What an epic journey. That's amazing. I love that they brought you on during Red Light Special too. I remember listening to that song also as a third grader and being like, I don't know what's coming over me, but this feels like
I've done that song so many times to lap dances because especially men out here love to just like get attention. So it was very like it felt like I was like, oh, I feel like I can now do this song all the time now. You know?
Yes, yes. Well, so tell me, besides TLC, what are other inspirations for you? Burlesque wise?
Y'all, you, Mr. Gorgeous, Stager Johnny's, Mod Carousel, like that was always the basis of all of my. Like, I feel like I had such a great foundation with you all as performers, because even just the multifaceted things that y'all can do also has inspired me. But like, you know, dang well that I have to contractually, I'm obligated to mention the greatest burlesque performer of all time, G's Louise,
Absolutely.
is an font of inspiration. She continuously inspires me. She motivates me without even trying. She is the reason why I breathe. And she is also, to round it out, the Lisa Left Eye Lopez of burlesque, in my opinion.
I mean, who am I to say otherwise?
She's creative, she's fiery, she's inspirational, but she's alive. And that's the only difference. And we're going to keep it that way.
Right.
We're going to speak that
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. Yeah. Jeez Louise is incredible. I just saw footage and photos of whatever show she was just.
Her one woman show, the G's Louise Variety Hour.
Yeah.
Was it with Fathoms Deep as Rufio and her as Rufio?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, she brought his ass on. She was like, I'm going to give everybody what they want.
Yeah. She's amazing and so fucking funny too.
She's literally perfect.
Yes. Well, on that note, because you also MC, again, listeners, I'm telling you, burlesque performers in general, but especially all my guests on the show, multifaceted talents. Do you like MCing more than performing?
Yes, 1,000%. It's more taxing on like me and like, and I'm the kind of host that I hate. I don't hate others using cue cards, but I personally don't like using cue cards. So I really bank on my memory and stuff like that. And your boy loves to smoke weed. This is only vice.
Before a show?
All the time.
Oh
all day, every day. I'm stoned right now.
Oh my God. You're so much.
But yeah, so like I usually don't do it if it's like a show that I've never done before. Then that's when I don't do it just because I really need to be like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that I love doing that more and I feel like I've gotten a lot more practice doing it. So maybe that's why that's the answer. But I do love performing. So I'm trying to do that more now.
Yeah. Okay, I have to ask 2 questions. Do you do gummies as well, or are you more just weed?
I'm just flower. And now that vape, you can do it everywhere. That's kind of been like the switch over because I was like, what? But also, you know this too. Like, I feel like, and maybe you feel differently, but I feel like when I host and perform, unless the act is very, very, very like choreographed and together, like if it's Boy Scout, I don't have to worry about it. But if it's something I'm even trying some shit, I don't feel like my performance is ever as good or even like good. It's just usually like I feel like the hosting is good and then the performing I don't really get a moment to like zen out and like get ready for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I am such a hot mess if I drink or do anything before performing or hosting. I can have like 2 sips of a tequila. One time, Stormy Leather shotgunned me during a mosh pit and I fell asleep. So that's, just to give you an idea of my tolerance, like it is low. Low. High tolerance for nudity, low tolerance for drugs. Doesn't mean I don't do them. But anyway, okay. So we have been to Beehoff together. We have been on the stage together. And the first year, I think, I got to meet your wonderful, lovely, effervescent, incredibly charming, incredibly supporting mother. I was just curious, what was it like telling her that you were in burlesque, or did she know from the start?
Yeah, I was actually I was trying to do drag, and everyone was like, "No," because I wasn't like, Chichi Rodriguez. I always say this: Chichi Rodriguez in the beginning of the movie where she's dodging bottles and stuff like that. That was me, but like worse. And even Jeezy, because I also like the more important thing was like I didn't feel like I was connected. Like I wasn't trying to perform as a female on stage.
Sure.
So I just didn't know that this existed. And so when this happened, oh yeah, my mom was like, duh. Because I used to also like flash people when I was little, like just my butt. And because they made them laugh, even though I would get in trouble, they would make everyone laugh. So I would just never understand why it was such a bad thing. That I kind of, when I matured, figured out it's because there's a time and place for everything. So that and when I started burlesque, I was like, I'm not gonna start. I don't feel like I should do this because I was trying to act and I was very unsuccessful at it. And then drag was unsuccessful. So I just kind of was starting to like give up on this like artistic expression dream. And then when I started burlesque, I was like, well, if I can come up with a good name, something that like, because at the time me and Jeezy had a web show and it was like G's Loueez and like my government name.
Uh-huh.
So like I wanted something that rhymes, not with hers, but just something that rhymed and was Hispanic sounding. So I could like bring like, attention to my roots and my Cuban heritage. And then my mom came up with Tito Bonito. I had already had Cuban Missile Crisis, but when she came up with Tito Bonito, I was like, that sounds perfect. There's a tit and a bone in there. There's something for everybody.
Oh my God. I love that your mom came up with your name. How's your mom doing, by the way?
She's great. She actually, right when we started and fixed the sound thing,
Uh-huh.
she started calling. And I was like, let me turn this off because you couldn't
Oh,
tell that it was interrupting the call at that moment. But
no.
she's good.
Oh, good. Well, please tell her I say hello.
I definitely will. She'll listen.
I love meeting moms at shows, especially burlesque shows, because I feel like parents, a lot of the times until they actually see it, I know mine were this way. They have no, I mean, also by the time I told them that I was doing burlesque, they're like, God, now burlesque? I mean, I'd already shown everything else, so that was kind of like a lesser thing for them to overcome. But, like, like my grandmother and grandfather used to see topless Vegas shows. So, like, their idea of what burlesque is really depends on the decade that they became aware of it. Anyway, I was curious, as an MC, do you have any well, I have 3 MC don'ts, but if you wanna list 3 MC do's.
For the top three, because this just happened the other day and it's my biggest pet peeve. And I think every performer in the world, when they hear this, they're going to be like, thank you.
Yes.
Instead of a top three, I'm going to give you one.
Tell me
When
the
you're
number
MC,
1.
and I know you don't do this, but I'm just saying, because a lot of MCs be doing this. When you're an MC, I need you to breathe. And when you're introducing somebody, you say their name correctly. Okay? Just for me, just say the first and last name correctly, please. Because you can get away with fucking up somebody's pronouns by just saying they. You can,
Oh,
if you don't
yeah.
know on stage, if it's a he, she, whatever, they, you can just say they.
Oh, yeah.
But you cannot funk with somebody's name. So please take the time to, if you don't know how to pronounce somebody's name, you go up to them and say, hey, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm having an issue right now. Can you please help me? Because I promise you, somebody is going to feel better about you doing that than you starting the intro and then turning off stage and going, what's your name?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is yes, 100%. Also, I think if you're unsure, there's nothing wrong with going up backstage and saying, "Hey, can you tell me your pronouns just so I know?"
Oh, 100%. I'm
Yeah.
saying I'm saying the least you could do is get the name right.
Oh,
Please
yeah.
try harder and do all the things because it's not even that much. But and a lot of the things you can do, especially as an MC, if you're like really caring about what you're introducing people, you can get a lot of the things that they feel important about themselves on their Instagram bio.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you can kind of do the research before because if you have anxiety like me, you can do the notes before. If the production is not giving you notes, you can set it up in a
Mhm.
way where like all you'd have to do is basically put the performers in the order of the set list. But it is mind-boggling to me that at drag shows and burlesque shows there's still moments where someone will say just the first name when someone fully well has like if you just bring me on stage and you say Tito, that's we better be friends. We better be absolute friends.
Have you ever been introduced? incorrect besides just saying Tito, like, has anyone, like, ever really fucked up your name before?
No, but I see it happen to my friends all the time, and I think because I host all the time, I give myself the intros. So,
Oh,
like,
sure.
it really doesn't happen. It's just I've seen it even recently happen. I've seen it at the biggest shows, and I've seen it at small shows. So, it's just I think when hosts are in that moment, it is like it's a lot of work, but if you like I don't drink at all. Like that would absolutely make me not a fun host. So like if you know that you drink, then you just gotta study the name before. Especially if the show has 4 performers in it, y'all. Like, come on.
Right.
I'm just joking. I'm not really mad, but I'm mad about it. Like,
I see. I see the anger in the eyes.
what are your top 3 things to do as an MC?
That's a good question. I mean, I kinda feel in general, right, as an MC, your job is to, number 1, do justice to the performers and make sure that you set them up and set the audience up for them as best as you possibly can. And I think
Agreed.
number 2 is to make the audience feel like they are a part of the show, or that's what I try and do. Like, and that can be,
Agreed.
that can be anything from a dance contest. It can be like I always try and remember at least a couple of people's names in the audience, and I refer back to them, and I feel like that just creates this connection in a whole different way. And so those things I really try and do. And I don't know. Sometimes I also like if I fuck something up really early on in the beginning of a show, and this is true when I'm performing too, I feel like I can just like let it go and then actually really enjoy myself because sometimes I get too much in my head. So it's like if I mess up, I always hope it's within like the first 30 seconds of performing or the first like 5 minutes of emceeing so I can just like let it go and be in the moment.
Well, you do it like me, where I like to be the audience's, for lack of better phrasing, friend.
Yeah.
And like, especially if you're trying to watch it as a theater thing and you're not really supposed to be talking and stuff, like I want to be able to be watching the performances and also comment on like, girl, did you see how you almost grabbed that? Whatever happened,
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
like to live in that moment because at the end of the day, it's still like awesome. Like shows are so fun that like it's kind of a gag to be getting paid to like also attend them.
Yes. Yes. I also
And
think
when
that
you're a friend
too.
and you mess up, you can also be like, y'all, my bad. I messed up. But like if you're trying to be this character and you're like serious, I feel like that's where it can kind of lead to like a little bit of a downfall.
Right. I have too many personalities inside my head. I don't have time to develop another one, so something I wanted to talk to you about too, and we've, messaged on and off about for years, I think, is you also have an OnlyFans. Do you feel like that is a part of yourself as Tito Bonito, or does that exist? Is that separate? Is it elsewhere?
Oh, it's definitely, I mean, it's onlyfans.com/ Tito Bonito. So it's definitely still, I mean, all of it, just the Tito Bonito, Boyless, it's all just marketing.
Mhm.
If my name was as catchy as Tito Bonito, I'd go with my government name. But no, it's just all part of it. I don't really, OnlyFans was definitely a pandemic safety net because
Sure.
I was definitely one of those people that did not get any, look, I don't even know what to call it. What was that y'all were getting? Unemployment. So I definitely took matters into my own hands, and luckily it was helpful. But I definitely don't. I'm not as active on it just because I feel like it's not the platform to be doing. Like I think it's, side note, I think it's so weird that like on Grinder you can't screenshot, but then on OnlyFans you can. So it's like, what is the point of creating this content that is so easily, and people want to? It's like drag queens; they want to consume
Mhm.
this content, and it's so easy. Like when I found my news on some little message board thing, I was like, that's when I kind of was like, let me pull
Oh,
back and figure out a better way to do this, because I think I started doing it based off of the idea of wanting to create more artistic nude art, and I'm still in that vein, and I still kind of want to take it that path.
sure.
It's just the easiest platform. It was the easiest one to get on and for people to like join.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. And I think, I mean, again, even looking at a lot of the legends of burlesque, there's plenty of people who have worked in all kinds of atmospheres, or like, depending on what the crowd is or what the platform is, make their work more erotic or more sexual. Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, I never had an OnlyFans. I got out of the industry before that really took off, but there are times when I think about it or I toy with it. I mean, I think what stops me from wanting to do it is that it's a lot of work, and burlesque is already
You
a lot of work. But what do you think?
it depends because it's one of those things that like when I first started getting into it, I asked a lot of questions because I was like, yo, there's a lot of like weird like energy being thrown at it. Like you need to do this and you need to, and it's like everybody was like, no, you do whatever the fuck you want to do, boo boo. And like it is, I think, a lot easier than burlesque because you can, baby, you don't film yourself. When you touching yourself, you don't film. You don't already have a bunch of content that you could just throw up on there and like.
I have no clue what you're talking about. I would never make any kind of private video of myself with the handheld device that I
Because the
have.
thing is, too, like when you are at a point where like it's also like a really good marketing way of you being able to talk to, for lack of better phrasing, fans. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like if you're not going to sit there on Instagram and write to everybody, then like you can have this different kind of like space and you can create it to whatever you want it to be. It could be like I do want to make it more where it's like, yeah, you might see my dick, but it's like it's going to be artistic and it's going to be new. And not that there's anything wrong anything wrong with setting up just one camera and fucking your brains out. But I that's not my truth right
Sure.
now in this moment. So I've also learned that like not even using it that much. Like if I've done a podcast, I did a podcast once and I made like $300 just by mentioning OnlyFans and saying it like this where it isn't updated or anything. Just people wanting to take a glance at the Cuban Missile Crisis because it's there. You could definitely see it. That I think people were just like that was enough for them to get, and it kind of helps because like if you're doing something for free and then you mention it, you aren't doing it for free anymore.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Tito Bonito. You can see him on a lot of platforms, and you can also see him on OnlyFans. Get that
Definitely
missile.
can. Also, I've learned too, like when my videos would blow up on TikTok, the OnlyFans subscriptions would grow and even Instagram. So it's like just having things everywhere, I feel like has always been something that my brain like has trained myself to do because obviously arts is very difficult and it's not like
Mhm.
you can just kind of go, I'm only going to do this. You have to try everything.
Yeah, it really is all connected, and in a way, it's kind of all I feel like at a certain point, we're just going to, especially in the US, be a culture where everybody has their nudes on some platform. Considering now that, like, young people grow up with cell phones, I mean, how can it not be? Like, the percentage of people who have nudes online versus the percentage of people that don't, I think is going to, like, drastically shift in the
I
next.
think it already has. I think at this
Yeah.
point, like it already has. I
Yeah.
think it's a lot more normalized than not. I think that's why there's also such a huge shift because like the people who try to act like they are so Christian and self-righteous are realizing that like, times are changing and people are being a lot more 60s 1960s style minded and open and loving, and a lot of that comes with being aware of our beautiful human bodies that sexuality we've demonized for so long, and it's like one of the only things that like shouldn't be demonized. Like what?
I mean, look, maybe I think after I get done recording this, I'm just gonna do an OnlyFans showboys feet. I'm just gonna collect the feet pic from all the people that I have on here.
You'd be surprised how many people you could do OnlyFans where it's just your feet with little different things in between them, in between the toes, every day.
Oh
And
baby,
then
I
and
know.
then you can request. Some people have OnlyFans where all they're doing is rating people's dick.
Yeah, I had a friend who well, she was a dom, but she got paid just to push frozen peas up a guy's butt. That was it. Put a
And
little.
that's it's finding your niche.
It's finding the niche, whether it's frozen peas or assholes or whatever it is.
Also, I will absolutely rate any of y'all's dicks. Send me a couple dollars and I will absolutely rate your
Rate.
penis.
Oh, rate. Oh, okay. I think you said ride, but rate. So they're just
Oh
like,
no, well yes, there's a
mm,
ton that ride. No, but there's some people that rate
oh
like
yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, but see, do you think I think that's something that like, can I ask, is this a female OnlyFans performer who does this? Because I feel
Yes.
like when it comes to gay men, like, also that's the thing too, right? Like, you're right. I have plenty of triple X content on my phone, but so does every other homosexual person.
And they all
So,
have OnlyFans.
oh, that's true. Yeah.
That's how they have them is because it's like you already have this content. Like I also used to my OnlyFans when I first started used to be a lot more private messaging. Like you could pay
Oh.
for videos and then I would like and it wouldn't even be me jerking off or anything. It would just be me stripping out of a costume that you liked and then
Mm.
talking and like some people wanted me to tell them a story about a specific thing in my childhood or like in my adolescence or even in my career. And like yeah, that was a good way to get through the pandemic, let me tell you.
I bet.
It probably
I
would have been easier for me to just jerk off than to talk and strip and do all that, but that's what I was willing to do.
all the respect. I'm also just imagining, like, I would love it to assemble, like, people with the craziest costumes. Like, I'm thinking of Bambi the Mermaid's, like, giant crab costume or I just like telling Yeah, okay, well, that's my next venture now. So, Tito, I'm almost at the end of my questions here. Um,
Oh.
I know. What has been, because you have had such an expansive career. You've performed all over, you've headlined all over. What's been one of the most memorable memories of your career for you?
There's been a few, some that I can think of. I mean, I think that if I didn't take the risk and move to LA, nothing with TLC would have happened. I wouldn't have danced with them, like all that stuff. I wouldn't have met them multiple, like I've met them so many times I can't count. So I think that even though that's not part of my career, I know that my career made that happen
Mhm.
because I'd just be sitting in Miami and they don't go to Miami like that. Um, but like especially my friendship with Jeezy, like Jeez Louise and I have been friends for what, like 17 years now, and it was before burlesque. So to see her grow, to see myself, to see the work that we do together when we're like with Kidden and Lou, or Burlesque Hall of Fame or anything like that, I think that whole friendship, that whole journey, and then kind of even moving to LA, I moved here with like $20 with just like, I'm gonna make it work, and worst case scenario, I'm gonna go back to Chicago. And I
Mhm.
think taking that risk and kind of like sticking with it and seeing it grow and being like, it's gonna work. Like if I want it to work, it's gonna work. It's just gonna not be on my terms or on my time. I have to be patient and seeing that patience pay off. Like when I lived in Miami and Chicago, the years did not get better. And when I moved here, every single year gets better. That's why I keep trying. So I think that whole leap of faith and just kind of also the platonic love that exists between me and Jeezy. Now that everyone else is starting to see it, I think that's been the best part of this. And it's just starting. Like I'm trying to get the budget to create a TV show based around burlesque. And I'm not gonna say anything because I know people will be listening. So I'm gonna save the idea for it, but it's so good that they're gonna be
Yes.
documentaries. We're gonna make movies. We're gonna have TV networks, bitch. So it's just the beginning, and that's also exciting to me because I feel like now I'm starting to become the performer that I wish I was 10 years ago.
I love all that. And also, I think sometimes, I had an acting teacher who once told me that it takes you 10 years to be a good actor. I mean, he was also like a cynical, kind of like masochist, or not sadist
It
acting
is.
teacher. But I do think there's something, I was talking about this with Matt Finish the other day. I think it was Matt Finish, but just how, the acts sometimes that we want to do, actually, this wasn't Matt Finish, but the acts that we want to
It was
do,
Tito Bonito.
it was Tito Bonito, and it was also Andrew Yang, or
Ooh.
Yangabang, who's also in Los Angeles, and he was just talking about, like, coming, around to acts that have been swimming around in your head for a while. All this to say, I think it takes time, and, you are the performer you wanna be, but it's interesting to see, like, when you kind of follow your gut and have patience, which is the hardest thing, I think.
Well, and that was the thing too, because your acting teacher was a little maybe I think was on the right track because it's like when I studied theater, when I met Jeezy, I was in theater school and I dropped out because I was so bad at like relaying a character and becoming a character. Like I could memorize real easy, but just becoming someone, I
Mhm.
just remember talking to my teacher and being like, "What? I don't know how to do that." And I remember she just goes, "Maybe you need to live more." Like have more life experiences. Maybe you need to just get your heart broken, do something. And I remember when all my friends were like, "She ain't wrong." I that's when I go, "Okay, cool, I'm gonna do that," and I've been doing that since. And I know that that was the answer. And it also taught me that me personally, I don't want to be an actor. I want to be Tito. I want to be
Yes.
me because I feel like there's enough. personalities. I'm not an actor, I'm a personality. So that was a really good lesson too that I took out of getting into burlesque, because it taught me that like that and if I kept trying to be an actor, I think I would have been 60 some being very unsuccessful.
Well, yeah, maybe, but you know what? You're the only role you need to play, baby.
Hello, that part. Listen, I just want to get this on the record. That intro you gave me, can I steal that and use it for myself?
Of course. Of
Yes.
course. It's one of my I'll send it to you. One of my favorite things is coming up with these intros for each performer. You have had a couple of, I would say, very successful TV moments, though, and you were also backup dancer for one of my favorite rappers, Big Dipper. If you wanna get a taste, just a taste of the talent of Tito Bonito, including that big juicy booty, you have to go see Big Dipper's music video for Lookin'. Do you have a dream acting role, or do you have a dream role that you, as Tito, want to, embody or take on?
So I have been speaking this into existence. So like even you said this earlier, you were like, sometimes you have an act and it takes forever. The new act that I have, the Cuban flag Mr. Gorgeous made me, that act I've been sitting on forever. And now that it like exists, I do it to Gloria Estefan. And like I wrote on Twitter a couple years ago, I was like, when are we gonna get the Gloria Estefan movie? Because I saw the musical and I was in tears. So I know I was like, just making a movie. And she replied to me and she
Whoa.
said, "Your something like your wish is my command." I got a screenshot. It's on Twitter. You could just look it up on Twitter. And she was like, "Your wish is my command, baby." And then ever since then, I've been tagging her every single time I post that act. And the if it's a video or pictures, and she always, I don't care if it's her street team, whatever, she always likes it. So my dream, I'm speaking it into the existence. And if it doesn't happen, that's fine. But I would love to be in that outfit in the Tropicana in Cuba in a flashback in the Gloria Estefan movie.
Yes, baby.
And if
Yes.
that doesn't happen, something, I don't care. As long as I'm just me, like I think like when Jeezy was on the show Easy on Netflix, that was one of those moments where I was like, yes, that's like the visual, because she was just playing herself and she was playing the multifaceted version of herself. She wasn't just, the performer Jeezy. She was the teaching the classes. She was producing the show. The show was named Jeezy's Juke Joint based off of a real thing. So I think that having that moment, I think that would be dope. So even just like I could do sketch comedy and do something like SNL comedy, but serious acting, no, I'd rather just be Tito Bonito in any capacity.
I love that. And I'm manifesting that for you too. So Gloria Stefan, who I'm sure will be a fan of this podcast. Let's make it happen. Let's get the wheels rolling. Tito Bonito, what is your next big project this summer, and where can people find you?
You can always find me in anything that I'm putting myself on through titobonito.com, the official website. You can get yourself some t-shirts. You can look at naked photos. You can go to the Onlyfans through there, all the social medias. You can see the Big Dipper video. Also, I even have a compiled list on YouTube of the 60 plus greatest boylesque performances. So it's like there's at least like 60 individual performers. So even if you have a video out there, you're performing, you have one on YouTube and you want, and it's not included in it, send me a link and I will absolutely add it. But I think it's also a really good resource for anybody that's interested in getting into burlesque, whether even if it's boylesque or whatever. I think it's a good place to start because there's a lot of variety in there. And I mean, I even got Charlie Champale in that fucking video, in
Wow.
that video set. Yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me. I'll be in pretty much LA all the time, but I will. Oh yeah, I can't say that. Okay, so yeah.
Okay. All right. Wait, so am I on that list yet?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think yours might be the. I could look it up, but it will mess up the phone.
No,
Which one
don't
is?
look it up. Don't. I was kind of kidding, but not really. But my ego is soothed. My ego
Why
is
wouldn't
soothed.
you be on it? Are you kidding me? If I have Charlie Champale in it, you think that you're not on it?
I don't
But
know
I
if I
think
know who Charlie
he
Champale
was the
is.
second or third ever winner of the Best Boy Lesper award at Beehoff.
Oh,
I
okay.
think he was second, actually. I think it was Tigger than him.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh,
Okay, now I
see,
know who you're talking about.
I'm
Okay.
telling you, I don't play.
Yes.
I did
Yes.
so much research when I first found out about this, and I was so grateful for the internet. And that was 2009. So, like, imagine the difference now. But, like, I remember you, Mr. Gorgeous, Tigger, Mod Carousel, like, so many incredible performers that like I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do this, because I also saw y'all do it so differently, and I knew that I still also wanted to do it differently than y'all were doing it. So I'm just grateful not only that y'all are still doing it and killing it, but that you're also amazing human beings as well, because that also is one of those things I think as performers we can kind of like lose touch of that, or some people don't think it's really that important. Maybe it's a Hollywood thing, but I think people are always gagged when they like a performer and then they're also a sweet and like normal human being on top of that.
Tito Bonito, I think that's the perfect place to end this pod. I don't know how you're so incredibly talented and yet so sweet and down to earth. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your story and your positivity on the Showboys pod. I love you. I adore you. Thank you so much for being here. Join us next week for another riveting episode of Showboys. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Showboys. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you didn't like it,
you are a whore, darling.